Hi again. A.T. Robertson, The Divinity of Christ in the Gospel of John. I'm reading from page 39 on the prologue of the Logos. This is part 2 of the prologue. It is not difficult to follow the thought in the prologue. We have first the personal relations between the Logos and God, that is verses 1 and 2. One is reminded of Genesis by the opening words. Of course, there never was a beginning with God or with the Logos, but we use the term for all that portion of eternity previous to man's career. We have to fall back upon Origen's contradictory language that the Son is eternally begotten. Father implies Son, and yet seems logically to antedate the Son. There we have to leave it, but we are more concerned with the phrase with God, which does not have the customary Greek preposition, meaning by the side of, but one that means face to face, and suggests the most intimate relationship and fellowship as equals. The flat assertion that the Logos was God has probably created more prejudice against this gospel than anything else in it. But this is the thesis of the book. The pre-incarnate state of the Logos is not simply affirmed, but is pointedly asserted that he was God in the sense that the Father is God. He repeats his point before he goes on. He next affirms that the Logos was the agent in creation. That's verse 3. He is the intermediate agent. He says not only all, but every single thing was made by him. One recalls in the Genesis account how God spoke, and it was done. The full power of creative activity is thus claimed for Jesus on a par with the Father. It is but a natural step to say, in plain words, in him was life. The ancient and more probable punctuation is, that which hath been made was life in him. Verse 4, the creative work of the Word, my Father worketh even until now, and I work, that's chapter 5:17, supplied the proof of his being the life of the world, which his personal manifestation in the incarnation made plain, or plainer. I am the life, for instance, in John 11, verse 25. John is fond of the words life and light in connection with God. Indeed, in 1 John 1, verse 1, he speaks of the word of life, combining the Logos with life. In Revelation 19, verse 13, we find, and his name is called the Word of God. Thus, the use of the word, capital W word, is as applied to Jesus, is one of the indications of identical authorship for these books, that is, 1 John and the Gospel of John. The Gnostics made frequent mystical use of these terms, as did the Mithraists and other followers of the mystery religions. But John is not afraid to take great words that were familiar to men, that is, pagans, and pour into them the truth of Christ. The term is not unknown in the Psalms, as also applied to God. John's style here is not simply a mixing of images when he says, and the life was the light of men. This is a good specimen of John's style. He leaves us to relate the various facts stated. And he quotes Westcott here. He is the light through the medium of life. Unquote. We are familiar with the properties of radium and electricity, but no physical image can fully present the truth about the pre-existent state and work of the Logos, God's Son. These verses, that is 1 to 5, are very wonderful and rich. The Logos was the light of men as a whole, and not merely the light of the Jews. John means, of course, that the Word was the moral and spiritual light of all men, all the real light that they had. And he's talking about, of course, men before the incarnation of Jesus of Nazareth. Verse 5 pictures the inevitable conflict between light and darkness. It is the mission of light to drive away darkness. This is a parable of the eternal conflict between good and evil, between Christ and Satan. The temptations of Jesus by Satan are one illustration of it, but it continues through the ages, and we are all sharers in the struggle and must take sides. We see this conflict in every city and in every hamlet, in politics, in business, in religion, in school, in the home, and in every heart. The light shines on in the darkness, is not discouraged by the long night and the stubborn and thick darkness. The light will win in the end, and the darkness overcame it not. This is beyond a doubt the true rendering We have the same idea in John 12:35. That darkness overtake you not. John claims final victory for Christ in Revelation 11 verse 15. That is the passage that says the kingdoms of the world became the kingdoms of God and of his Christ, and he will reign forever. More to come. I'll put a link into the deity of Christ in the early church, which is, I think, at least 3 videos, also on our website, onewonders.org. See you next time.